All right, let's talk about something we all do, or at least think we should do, stretching. We all kind of assume we know what it's for, right? Well, it turns out this story's getting a whole lot more interesting. Yeah, you stretch to, get a little more flexible, maybe touch your toes, loosen up after sitting all day. But what if that same simple stretch could do more? Like, what if it could actually build muscle and make you stronger? Sounds a little crazy, right? So, to really get why this is such a big deal, we've got to rewind a bit and look at what we used to think about stretching. For the longest time, the science was, well, pretty settled. Basically, for decades, the thinking was, yeah, stretching is awesome for your range of motion, but that's kind of it. You might have even heard coaches telling you not to do static stretching before a workout, because some studies showed it could actually make you a little weaker for a bit. But that whole idea is starting to get turned on its head. And the first clues, the first little hints that we were missing something big, they didn't even come from us. They came from some wild animal studies with results that were, well, almost unbelievable.
Okay, get ready for this. This is the number that made scientists everywhere go, whoa, hold on. In some studies with birds, they put their muscles under these really long, constant stretches. And the result? A staggering 319% increase in muscle mass. I mean, that's just insane. And a number like that, it just begs the question,
Could this possibly work for us? For humans? Or is this just some weird thing that only happens in birds? Could we really build muscle just by stretching? Well, now we have an answer. A huge new meta-analysis. This thing was massive. It looked at 42 different studies on over 1,300 people. And the verdict? A resounding yes. It seems that chronic static stretching can actually build muscle and strength in humans too.
all right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What do the numbers actually say? When it comes to maximal strength, they found a small but totally significant increase. The effect size, which is just a handy way of measuring how big the effect is, was D equals 0.30.
And what about muscle size? Hypertrophy? Same story. A small, but again, significant increase, with an effect size of D equals 0.20. So look, we're not talking about transforming into a bodybuilder overnight here, but the effect is real, it's measurable, for both strength and size. But, and this is a really big but, there's a catch. You can't just do a quick 30-second hamstring stretch and call it a day. It doesn't work like that. It all comes down to something called a dose-response relationship, which basically means the amount of stretching you do, that's everything. So what's that? A dose-response relationship just means the more you do something, the bigger the effect. Pretty simple, right? In this case, the dose is your total stretching volume. We're talking how long the sessions are, how many times a week you're doing it, and for how many weeks you keep it up. And this new analysis found some super clear guidelines. First up, session time. If your total stretching in one go is less than 15 minutes, you're probably not going to see much of an effect. But once you hit 15 minutes or more, that's when you start seeing those significant gains in strength and size. And it's the same deal for how long you stick with the program. Try it for less than 6 weeks, and you're likely to see, well, pretty much nothing, especially for muscle growth. But you got to give your body time to adapt. Push past that 6-week mark, and that's where the magic starts to happen. Last piece of the puzzle, how often? Just doing it a couple of times a week, yeah, that's not going to cut it for building muscle. The sweet spot, according to the data, is 5 or more times a week. It really hammers home that consistency is absolutely crucial here. Okay, so we've established that if you do enough of it, stretching can boost both strength and size. But does it affect them equally? Let's zoom in a little closer on just how big those gains are. So if we go back to those effect sizes, remember, strength was at 0.30 and muscle size was at 0.20. It's not a massive difference, for sure, but it does kind of suggest that stretching gives you a little more bang for your buck when it comes to strength compared to just pure size. Okay, now hold on. Before you throw out your dumbbells and cancel your gym membership, we need a serious reality check. How does all this stack up against the undisputed champion of building muscle, good old-fashioned weight training? Look, let's be crystal clear. Stretching works, but resistance training is just way, way better at this. The effects from stretching are what we'd call small. The effects from weight training, they're moderate to large. Even the scientists who wrote the paper call stretching a less effective alternative. So yeah, it's an option, but lifting weights is just in a different league. So, knowing all that, who is this actually for? Who should really be thinking about using high-volume stretching to get stronger? This is where we get practical.
Okay, so where does this fit in? Well, it's a super valuable tool in a few key situations. It's a fantastic alternative if you can't do normal resistance training, maybe because you're injured or have some other condition. It can also be a nice little add-on to your regular workouts, but definitely not a replacement. And here's a cool thing. Since it can be passive, you could literally use splints to stretch while you're sitting at your desk working. It's a great option for anyone who maybe can't or just doesn't want to do heavy lifting.
And all this leaves us with a really interesting final thought. For so long, we've thought the only way to build muscle was active contraction, lifting things. But this research shows that just creating passive tension, just stretching, is another way to get there, even if it's not as powerful. So you have to wonder, is this the next big thing in fitness and rehab? It's pretty exciting to think about. Thanks for tuning in.